Yeah, this movie was intense. What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. Review number 3 of the day. I'm tired, but today we're talking All Day and a Night. This is a brand new Netflix original with some familiar faces, and I was really excited to check out what this film had to offer. And let's get right into it. So, while serving life in prison, a young man looks back at the people, the circumstances, and the system that set him on the path toward his crime. You have Ashton Sanders from Moonlight fame, Jeffrey Wright, who will be our Commissioner Gordon in the upcoming Batman, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen, a very well-known actor at this point. A lot of people know him from Aquaman, but he made a huge dent in Watchmen recently, so the cast stacked. The director, Joe Robert Cole, not his first attempt, but he's only directed a handful of things, so a bit of a newcomer from that standpoint. He did bring some things to the table here that I was thoroughly impressed with. So obviously the subject matter here is important, and that is going to lead to many intense moments. And I wasn't lying in the intro. This has to be one of the more intense experiences I've had all year, even though at the end of the day, the narrative doesn't quite measure up to the source material presented. What we start out with at the beginning of the film, I mean the opening couple of minutes, boom, and I mean boom. You are in this movie, you're curious as to where it's going to go, but instead of moving forward from there, I mean, we move forward, but we're mostly flashing back through time, giving us a bit of an insight into where he was growing up, how his father treated him, and how that kind of implanted certain ideas in his head as to how he should live his life, whether it's his father or his mother or his grandmother. I mean, he's surrounded by so many different people with so many different ideologies. And it's just, where is this kid going to go? Where is he going to end up? Is he going to find his outlet through music? Is that going to keep him on the right path? Or is he going to continue to dive deeper to the point where that sets him on his path to destruction? And we get an insight at the beginning of this film as to where he ends up, right? But there's more to tell with that story. What I was fascinated in, and what I loved we continue to flash back to, although not enough at the end of the day, was his childhood. And Jeffrey Wright's father figure character, even though, you know, he wasn't the best father figure, there were tender moments between he and his mother, and when he grows up, that's when we get to see him as Ashton Sanders prior to that moment at the beginning of the film, and his love life, and what happens between he and his girlfriend. And I love a good father-son relationship, and that added so much to a story that, once again, just didn't quite get there because they're mixing so many elements together here. So you would think these intense moments planted throughout would come together to create something thoroughly intriguing, especially when you have subject matter like this. But I found the pacing to be the detriment to this film. It was slow moving, right? And you're really wanting to relate to this character. There are so many moments where we showcase his humanity, but then he'll make a decision, he'll make a mistake, and we understand why, right? We get the backstory as to why. And I know some may say, well, obviously, Austin, you didn't have the upbringing that he had, but even then, right? This had the promise of being an exploration of the cycle of violence and systemic racism in America, and it set up all of those ideas at the beginning. Yet the approach to the film, with the constant voiceover and what are supposed to be more intimate moments with the character that at the end of the day don't really build up to anything by the time you get into the third act of the film, it did nothing different. It didn't do anything interesting or unpredictable with the characters. And sure, moments within the film are unpredictable, and those were very intense, absolutely. But where we leave off at the end, I didn't feel that emotion that I needed between certain relationships and certain characters. I didn't feel that, man, I really want him to overcome and do this. Of course we do, right? But the film presents all of these themes that it never really delves into. It brings up topics that it just skims past and goes on to the next scene that is not near as much of an integral moment as what we could have gotten with this character, as what we could have gotten with this script. It's like the kitchen sink approach, and that's not what I wanted. And I know that's kind of a personal thing. Well, that's not what I wanted from this movie, but it could have been so much better. The pacing, it also could have been so much shorter. It feels a lot longer than it is because it takes so long to get to where we're going at the end of the film. And while it was a nice scene, it was a nice moment, but then again, we could have chopped 30, 40 minutes out of this film. And I don't want to say I love getting to see, but it was interesting seeing the trials and the tribulations of this young man whose future just feels predetermined, right? But we want him to overcome, even though we know the outcome of certain situations. I'm looking at this from a filmmaking perspective, and there's just no real structure with the story. The focus could have been so much stronger. And you guys know me, I'm not a fan of voiceover unless it's executed properly. I don't think it worked all that well here. I still think the movie worked in so many different ways. The talent, the intense moments, the impactful scenes, a couple of things towards the end that worked so well for me, that father-son relationship. So before I give you my score, if you guys enjoyed this review, thank you so much for watching this video, bringing you Netflix reviews like crazy, probably to an annoying point. I'm going slightly over the halfway point because I do think this film has a lot to it that works oh so well, and it's going to have its fans, especially someone who relates to this kind of struggle. So I take nothing away from you there. I have to judge it more so from a filmmaking perspective, so I'm going at 52%, and I know that seems low, guys. For what it was going for, I really appreciated it, but the movie didn't structurally come together for me to work as well as it should have. So, in my book, another Netflix disappointment, but some elements that I think are worth noting, and some things that I think many will take home with them. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you soon.